So, Carson, how are you today?
Good, yeah, fine. Right, well, I've been better, yeah. I've been better. Do you know when you first wake up in the morning and you're in that limbo between reality and dreams? Whatever you want to call it. And you're unsure if that alarm bell that you're hearing is actually an alarm bell or just your body trying to convince you that it's something else to keep you asleep for like 2 more minutes. Like a police siren or a kid screaming or... It's funny. Well, I love that. There's a certain ambiguity to it. It's like an impermanent little purgatory where you can live for a second. But I haven't had that recently. Like for the past 2 months, the second I even come close to consciousness, I'm absolutely bombarded with every single menial task I have to do throughout the day. It's like 7 of my own voices screaming at once. Oh, Carson, don't forget your contacts. Oh, Carson, don't forget your homework. You've got that midterm at 3 o'clock. Don't forget to walk on 7th Street, not 8th Street, because that crazy person's gonna follow you home again. Remember last time? It hits me with such force. My dad says it's burning the candle at both ends, and you can do that when you're young, and you're supposed to do that when you're young. But sometimes I do wish I could just lay there for a minute, or 30 seconds even. But I can't. I can't relax. I got up at 4:12 this morning, which isn't entirely out of the blue, but I was on this couch and I was scrounging around with a phone flashlight looking for my contacts. And I'm blind, like really blind. It's probably why I work for an eye doctor. Well, not eye doctor exactly. I'm a medical assistant to an oculoplastic surgeon. Dr. Stevens, she only hires girls from my sorority. In MCB, molecular cell biology, is my major. Well, neuroscience, actually. Whatever, so smart, I know. But it's good and it pays well, and I didn't have to apply for it, so that's great. I don't know if I want to be a doctor. I act like I know, but I don't really know. But knowing is doing, right? But clinic this morning was... This is the first summer in my life that I've lived alone, which is crazy to think about. And I added a theater minor, which is funny to think about what I do when I'm left up to my own devices. I did my first show when I was 9, Annie and Annie. My understudy was 14, and she hated me. Hated me. So this is the first show I've done in 5 years. Romeo and Juliet. I'm playing Romeo. I was called back for Juliet, but Romeo's cool. And tonight's our opening night, actually. Clinic, right. My point is, I think I broke my collarbone. When I was a freshman, I took this 30-second pull from a handle of Fireball, and then I knocked myself out on a toilet while I was yakking. It was hilarious. And the guys still won't shut up about it. They call me Tahoe or Fireball. You know you do. I had a bruise on my head for like 3 weeks. But you know, it did prove something, that I don't back away from a challenge, even though I probably sometimes should. And it's the same thing with acting, you know? It's like part of me is dying while another part comes to life. Acting is so exciting. Makes me feel invincible. And it's getting harder and harder to go back to my multivariable calculus class and sit there staring at them, things that I already know, when I could be on that stage. I could be feeling that way. People do that for a living. But not me. That's the hardest part. I'm Carson Brown, neuroscience star, committed girlfriend, drink you under a table. That's who I am. And it's exhausting. Yeah, it's gonna be a bitch during the stage combat scenes with Tybalt tonight. I probably should have asked Stevens if it was broken. She would have known. Oh, clinic, God, right. So I got into clinic like 5:15 this morning, which was a little bit later than usual, and Stevens was already on one, which was no surprise. So I prep her patients, I set up for a DCR, and then I'm sitting there taking patient messages, and then I'm finally sitting still for like 2 seconds, and then she pops her head in the hallway, says, hey, can you handle the IV in room 2? Which, for reference, I started doing IVs like 2 weeks ago, and I'm not the best at it, but who am I to question? So I walk over to room 2, and it's this really nice elderly Korean lady, Mrs. Kwon, and I actually helped with her cholazen removal like a month ago, so we have a rapport. But then I get in there, and the second I'm swabbing her arm with an alcohol wipe, I realize that my hands are super shaky. It's like I have EOAD or something, or early onset Alzheimer's disease. And then I get the needle, and then I jab her arm, and blood just starts spewing up at me, and I'm freaking out because it's a lot of blood. And then she starts panicking, and I'm panicking, and then she lays back on the bed and slowly just kind of passes out, and then Dr. Stevens comes in, and she's freaking out. She grabs paper towel, she's trying to stop the bleeding, and I'm just standing there staring at her because there's a crazy amount of blood, and I'm just thinking about how I have this audition later.
Do you still want to read?